Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever the fuck you're watching this. This is RosinBggers episode 11. We are flying through the numbers here. This weekly show, it seems like they add up every week. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing better than the Blues are right now. As you see, we've switched jerseys from the typical St. Louis Cardinals attire to the St. Louis Blues attire.
We got playoff hockey.
Currently down 2-0 at the end of the first to a very good Colorado squad. Team you don't
Yeah,
want to be playing right now.
very, very good is putting it very lightly.
It's like men versus boys. You could throw out a USHL team right now, and we probably get about the same results as what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Colorado is just so stacked. It's unbelievable that they didn't win the President's Trophy, but they probably didn't want to because that thing's a fucking curse, as Florida can attest. Sunrise, Florida had high hopes for a potential cup. They got bounced by their in-state neighbors.
It's the matchup you want to see right now, isn't it? I think all fans of hockey, I know we're switching sports a little bit, but you kind of want to see that Tampa Bay Colorado matchup.
Yeah.
I think probably the two best teams in the NHL would square off head to head if they can get there. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I know different sport, but I digress. We got lots of baseball to talk about, and God, we got a first 30-game winner in, and we're through almost 45 games, about the first third of the regular season already complete. So lots to get to, lots in store here on the pod today.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about our matchups from last week that we wanted to highlight. So let's talk a little review here. So you were looking at Yankees and White Sox. What are your takeaways from that series?
Well, the biggest takeaway that we'll get to here on the Yankees White Sox is actually going to be
We'll save that for later.
It'll be coming up on Fair or Foul. There was kind of a big storyline. We picked a pretty
Yeah.
good series to feature this week, and we had a lot of fireworks that happened thanks to the comments of Josh Donaldson on Tim Anderson. More on that in a little bit. But Yankees White Sox review. Great series. Of course, this flashes you back to last year in the cornfields in Iowa at the Field of Dreams game. It had all the hype, and certainly you looked at the Yankees, who entered the series as the best team in baseball, riding high off multiple winning streaks, and they were taking on a Chicago White Sox team that a lot of people had favored to win the AL Central, but a White Sox team that has kind of been slow out of the gates here. So we start Saturday. We had Friday rain out. That didn't damper the fireworks in the series, thankfully, but Saturday with Military Appreciation Day, DJ LeMahieu hits a grand slam for the Yankees. That puts the Yankees up 5-0. They never really looked back from there. Jose Abreu hit a 3-run shot in the third to pull within 2. Then, of course, we had the Donaldson-Anderson incident that plagued the rest of the entire series. Teams traded runs as the White Sox attempted to mount a comeback, but the Yankees were able to hang on. They win Game 1. It looked like it was going to be kind of a Yankees rolling situation. Then we come to Sunday, and Sunday is the doubleheader, a day-night doubleheader. Clay Holmes for the Yankees, he pitched 21 scoreless innings. He's been just red hot out of the bullpen. Obviously, the White Sox, however, were able to rally around that incident. Game 2, which was the makeup game from Friday's rainout, saw Jamison Tyone versus old man Johnny Cueto still doing things for the Chicago White Sox, and you gotta love when you see those.
Still
kind of
janky as ever with that fucking delivery too.
He is timeless. He has found the fountain of youth for Chicago, and I kind of scratched my head a little bit when the White Sox added him to the rotation, thinking that they had so many good young arms that they could have possibly thrown in, but he adds that veteran presence. Good battle. White Sox take advantage of a good game, an offensive rally where they played station to station. They scratched off a single run. Cueto goes deep into the game for a veteran pitcher, 6 scoreless, came out in the 7th after he gave up 2 base hits, but the Sox pen comes in. And, Joe Kelly, you remember the infamous scene that he did as Los Angeles Dodger. Kelly comes, gets out of the jam. Yankees kind of base running buffoons, way too big of a lead on second. Joe Kelly's able to get a huge pickoff play, and that turned the tide. Yankees tie it up with a Judge home run. Shocker. Aaron Judge has been just a man possessed lately in Major League Baseball. But A.J. Pollock answers with a solo shot off of Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman is now since gone to the IR. He has been absolutely dreadful over his last 5 starts. Last 5 outings for Aroldis Chapman, 14.73 ERA. Oofda for a big flamethrower for the New York Yankees. If there's one big red alert, if you're pushing the panic button, because the Yankees love to do that. They really love to take something that is so good and push the panic button immediately. If you're pushing the panic button right now in New York, it's over your bullpen, because right now it doesn't look good. And Aroldis Chapman is going to go on the IL, figure some shit out. Ian Hendricks proves why he's one of the best closers in baseball, comes in for the Sox. They get game 2 and end up sweeping the Sunday double, because game 2, the ESPN primetime game, it featured Luis Severino versus Michael Kopech. And for my money, Michael Kopech right now, one of the best pitchers in the starting rotation, for any starting rotation right now. He throws an absolute clinic. He goes perfect through 5 2/3, quickly climbing the charts. Tim Anderson, of course, would get the last laugh in the series, as he would hit the big 3-run home run that would extend the lead out to 5-0, to which the White Sox never looked back. So the White Sox rally. They pick up 2 of 3 from the New York Yankees, and that's a huge early season series, especially in terms of the American League Central standings, which we'll talk a little bit later on the State of the Union, when I focus not only on one division, but an entire league. We'll take the American League and put it into perspective today. The AL Central race kind of heating up as the White Sox appear to be heating up, and they picked up, again, two big Ws from the New York Yankees. The Yankees would turn around, of course, on Monday. They picked up their 30th win of the season, first team to 30. But overall, good series, and it was good to see the Yankees able to scratch, or the White Sox, able to scratch across 2 from the pinstripes.
Yeah, you mentioned Kopech being one of the best. I mean, he's got to be in the conversation for the AL Cy Young, right? Because he's 8 starts into the season. I think we can, start to talk about these guys in terms of end of season awards. This isn't off of 2 starts, 3 starts, 4 starts. This is 8 starts. That's probably a quarter of the starts he'll get for the season, maybe even a third of the starts he'll get for the season, depending on how things shake out. And you're looking at a guy who's 1-1. Wins don't matter as much anymore in the Cy Young world. Felix Hernandez started that trend, and then the analytics picked up and continued that. But he's got a 1.29 ERA. And we talked about the White Sox not being able to score runs. They had some bullpen struggles a little bit. Bump, you mentioned Hendricks is one of the best, but they've got some guys in the middle of that bullpen that aren't great. So he's been robbed of a couple of wins, but also hasn't gotten run support, that has resulted in a few other no decisions. But you're talking about a guy with a 1.29 ERA through 8 starts with the White Sox lineup behind him. You would probably expect him to have 5 or 6 wins, but it's just not working out in his favor. But he continues to deal when he's on the mound. And,
he is a fun story to pay attention to, because he was a bullpen guy who kind of came up and they molded him into a starter and put him into that starting rotation, because that's where the White Sox needed him more. And you really wonder about those kind of projects when you see a guy that's originally a bullpen guy that you're making a starter, or a starter into a bullpen guy, vice versa. Kind of what the Padres are doing with Mackenzie Gore right now, scratching my head a little bit why you would take him out of the starting rotation, because he's had such a tremendous start to the year. But you wonder how they respond. And so far for Kopech, he has just been doing a phenomenal job in that starting rotation. He's been able to go deep into games, which is something that we haven't seen a whole lot from the entire major leagues this year. Right now, the Yankees and the White Sox, probably as far as the 2 rotations that are going the deepest in the American League. And a lot of that thanks to what we've seen from Michael Kopech. And if you can get a guy that's going to give you 6, potentially 7 innings a start, and is going to give you a chance to get that game to your setup guy, to your closer late in games, and give you a win every 5 starts, you like your chances. And right now, that's what he's been dealing with in Chicago, and they've got themselves a really good one. Like I said, I love this guy coming up. I had thought that he was probably closer material when he first got brought up from the Chicago White Sox, but how do you take a guy like Ian Hendricks out of the equation in the starting rotation? So you move him over to the starting 5, and he's responded phenomenally. So that's good to see. And like I said, closing the gap there on on Minnesota, and that should be a fun race to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you mentioned the transition too. We often see guys have more success going from the rotation to the bullpen because they can kind of change their mentality. They can change their approach. They're throwing 100% on every single pitch when you're in the bullpen, as opposed to having to manage facing a lineup 3-4 times throughout the course of a game as a starter. We don't often see guys go the other direction, and I think that's important that you're highlighting the fact that Kopech has made that transition, because we don't see it happen nearly as often where guys go from bullpen guys, especially someone who was slotted to potentially be their long-term answer at closer, to move him into the starting rotation. You know, Aroldis Chapman was a guy who was a starter in Cuba, came over here and dominated as a closer. We saw Smoltz late in his career, became a closer and dominated. We don't normally see guys go the other direction, and for Kopech to do it, he's one of the few success stories, and he's a very high success story.
And he's got one pitcher that he can look to that made that transition and has made it work for a very long period of time. And I'm going right back to my St. Louis roots and going Adam Wainwright, who was originally the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals, who then became a starter and is still among one of the best pitchers in the National League today. So you get that kind of pedigree to look forward to. And if you need an example of how to make that work, look no further than big number 50, Wainwright dealing for St. Louis and doing his old man walks. Love his Twitter page recently. If you need to follow somebody on Twitter, follow Adam Wainwright, because here's a guy that's just loving baseball right now and going out and doing all the things that normal baseball players don't get to appreciate or respect or get that opportunity. And he's really spotlighting it. And it's been a fun follow. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I highlighted the Dodgers and the Phillies last week, and I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Mookie Betts, who's been off to a little bit of a bumpy start. He's been a little streaky to start the year. He's batting below the average. I would expect to see him, I expect to see him closer to 300. He's been in the 240s, 230s, but he's back up in the 260s now, starting to pick it up. And this series was really kind of, I think, the launching pad for him, because he had a hit in every game. He had 3 hits in the middle game of the series, and he had home runs in each of the last 2 games against the Phillies pitching staff, which I understand, not the greatest pitching staff, but a guy like Mookie who can get hot can carry a lineup. We saw him do it last year in the playoffs with the Dodgers. He carried that team in several games with his ability to swing the stick and everything else he brings to the game. Probably the best defensive outfielder in baseball. I'm sure that's debatable. I get it, but he brings an X factor in the field. And when he's swinging the bat, stealing bases, on the bases, putting pressure on pitchers, he's a difference maker. And he was a difference maker in this series with his bat against a Phillies team that I thought, if they could get a couple off the Dodgers, might be able to treat this series as their own launching pad. And they weren't able to do that because of what not only Mookie, but what the Dodgers were able to do. And Mookie was a big part of that. I look at the Dodgers, who just got shut out today by the Nationals and Eric Fetty.
Yeah.
What a weird game. It's why the game of baseball is one of the, if not the most difficult game to play. You're hitting a round ball with a round stick, and it's several things can go wrong on any given play. And as you can see, the Dodgers were blanked by the Nats today, not even by like a Strasburg, right? So talking about an Eric Fetty who's been up and down from the minor leagues and been a platoon guy. So, fickle game for sure. But the Dodgers, of course, take 2 of 3 from the Phillies. They continue their streak of winning series, continue to assert themselves as the best team in the National League. And I think that right now, looking at it, it's them and the Mets that have a claim to stake for that best team in the National League. A couple of teams in the NL West that have a little bit to say about it. A couple of teams in the NL Central that you can't ignore. But I think we're looking at the Mets and the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers just continue to churn out series wins here. They take another 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. They dropped the last game of the series. But the Dodgers are in full stride. They're in midseason form. And they're not even getting production. Like I mentioned, Mookie was kind of off to a slow start. They're not getting any production from Bellinger, who got off to a pretty good start and has regressed back to Cody of 2020 and 2021, who just can't seem to fucking hit the ball. Still an incredible defender, still brings some other things to the table with his ability on the base paths when he can get on base. But they're not even clicking on all cylinders, and they just continue to win. So Dave Roberts, it looks like he's making good on his prediction of the Dodgers win the World Series if we play the World Series, right? So Dodgers look really good right now, and they have room to grow, which is fucking scary if I'm an NL manager right now.
Mookie's getting red hot. What I've noticed out of the Dodgers over the last couple of series is it's not the big names from LA that you would expect. They're getting production out of the bottom of the order, and that bottom of the order has given them at least maybe +6, +7, +8 wins so far this year in an NL West race that appears to be going to be going down to the wire. You get guys like Mookie going, you get Freddie back and hitting hot, you get Bellinger going, and God, he just seems like a guy that once the sunshine starts shining down a little bit and he gets into the midsummer form, dog days of summer, so to speak, Cody comes into rare form. It's been a traditional slow starter for LA, so that doesn't surprise me a whole lot. But you're picking up wins right now, and you're getting production essentially from. Seems like Dave Roberts is pushing all the right buttons and making all the right lineup plays. So LA's a scary team. I really thought that Philly could have potentially took 2 or 3 there, down the stretch, but their starting pitching just cannot get them over the edge right now. I think they've got all the offense in the world to stay with teams, but their starting pitching is just making you head scratch.
Yeah, I mean, they hang 4 in the second inning, and you think, hey, maybe they're going to take this second game of 3 in the series, and they can't scratch any more runs together, and the staff just can't hold the lead, and of course they blow the save in the 9th, and just a tough one there. Knabel's now got 3 losses on the season, but they've got to figure out from the front to the back in terms of that pitching staff. Nola looked better than he has so far this year, going 7 innings and giving up 2, but then they blow the lead and blow the game completely for him. So, that's what the Dodgers can do, though. You mentioned, getting production out of the bottom of the lineup, or the people you don't think about in terms of, who's gonna put those runs on the board. And, Chris Taylor's been putting the ball in play, and Gavin Lux is starting to make good on all of that potential that everybody thought he had. So we're starting to see those guys that are picking up the slack. And if those stars get going, like, this lineup could be as dangerous as we expected it to be, and maybe even better. All right, let's talk a little bit of upcoming week, though. So looks like we don't have an overlay, so I'm just going to talk about it.
Sounds good.
I'll pass it your way. What series you want to highlight this week?
Highlighting a weekend series with the Boston Red Sox and the Baltimore Orioles. I understand a very weird series to highlight in terms of potential impact on the standings and in terms of potential close games. It's a weird series to highlight. I'm highlighting this series for one reason and one reason alone. Adley fucking Rutschman has made it to the show. Couldn't be more excited for the guy. He's just one of those rare players. I think that baseball guys and people that have been around the sport are really pulling for him to have a huge, successful career. This is a guy, of course, College World Series fame from Oregon State and what he was able to do for the Beavers. He comes up, gets drafted first overall by the Baltimore Orioles, which seems like eons ago. Hung out in the minors. Baltimore has never been very good. They haven't been in a title, any sort of contention race that would have prompted Baltimore to say, hey, we need to bring up our best players. Until this year, Baltimore making the move to bring up Adley Rutschman. He's done more than his fair share in the minor leagues. He's absolutely raked everywhere he's gone. He comes in immediately, for a catcher to get a leadoff triple in his first major league at bat. You just got to be excited for the guy. And what I'm loving here recently, I'll throw Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Adley Rutschman, just to name a few, is the amount of access that they give us into the minor league locker rooms when they're doing these call-ups, and you see the raw emotion and the excitement from the minor league teammates for their guy, right?
That video was fucking incredible.
literally my hair on my
Goosebumps.
arm raised up.
Yep.
It gives me chills to see that kind of stuff, and I love to see what he brings to the table for Baltimore. Now, I'm highlighting the series, and as I'm doing my predictions, I'm saying it's a Boston sweep because Baltimore doesn't have the pieces in place yet to assist Adley Rutschman in his goal to really bring Baltimore out of the cellar dwellers right now. Their pitching staff is absolutely abysmal, and
Putrid.
you know, I often say, talking about the casual baseball fan that can't name five guys on Baltimore. I consider myself to be pretty much a baseball junkie, and right now I can't name you their starting rotation. Um, I honestly think they play a little rock paper scissors before a game starts, and they just hand that ball to whoever may take the least amount of damage that
Whose
day.
arm's feeling good today?
Right, Joe Mans, who wants to take the bump, and nobody really wants to take the bump for Baltimore right now because they're
Yeah.
not getting a lot of run support. Their pitching is abysmal. It's a rough team, but it's a team that's for all intents and purposes, you can get a few pieces together around your corner piece with Adley Rutschman. Maybe 3-4 years out, we're looking at a team that's going to be able to contend, but it's going to be a build. But Baltimore is building the right way. They're not like a Cincinnati or an Oakland where they sell the farm. They're keeping their young guys. They're giving their young guys a chance. They know these guys are the franchise players, and so you get the call up. The future for Baltimore, the fan base, they've had it so rough over seemingly the last decade that even this is a little bit of hope. And I think, kind of the Royals fans feel the exact same way when they see Bobby Witt Jr. take the plate. You get a little bit of hope. You get a little bit of excitement, and it'll bring fans to the ballpark, which what their current lineup wasn't going to do. You love the call-up story with Adley Rutschman. That's why I'm featuring the series. Again, I think Boston sweeps this one. Boston, what the hell do we know? We eviscerated them on last week's pod, and then they turn around and win 6 straight games. So Boston's starting to play some good baseball. I think the Red Sox take the series, and I think it'll be a 3-0 sweep, but just super excited for the future. It's here for Baltimore, and you can see it. You don't have to watch minor league baseball games anymore or pay attention to the minor league baseball box scores because your future star, your stud, your number one draft pick is playing for your franchise. And I think that gives the O's some excitement.
Yeah, and I like, you mentioned how much access we get into the minor leagues. I like also the trend we're seeing. You mentioned Bobby Witt, Julio Rodriguez, these young guys that are getting called up, right? It's time for these teams to just fucking stop with this team control nonsense. Fans want to see young, exciting players play the fucking game. Mm-hmm. You got to stop with this nonsense of team control. And I'm so glad under the CBA that they did sort of cut a little bit of the knees out from under that team control stuff, the arbitration. And I want the young guys playing. I want to see Bobby Witt play. I want to see Adley Rutschman play. I want to see Julio Rodriguez play. They're exciting. They're young. They're energetic. And I get it that we've got several established vets in the league that are still the best players in baseball. But these guys are the future. And if I'm a fan, a casual fan, that's who I want to see play. Mm-hmm. As a hardcore fan, of course I want to see them play because I love watching prospects grow. I don't mind seeing the struggles because I can take things from it. As somebody who loves to scrutinize the game, I can see how the at-bats are improving. I can see how they control the strike zone. They're just getting unlucky with some of their hard contact that's getting hit right at people, those sorts of things. Those are the things that I can build on as a fucking junkie. But as a casual fan, I get to see these guys playing, and that brings me to the ballpark. And for a team like Baltimore that complains about fan support and all that, these are the moves you need to make if you want to get people to the fucking stadium. Oakland, Cincinnati, take notes. This is what you need to do to get people out to the ballpark.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh is another one where if they don't call O'Neal Cruz up tomorrow, I don't know what the hell Pittsburgh's doing because he's ready to go. To me, the call-ups are a lot different than they were even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And I think a lot of that, what we're seeing is we're seeing baseball in the social media age. You get, for instance, St. Louis, Paul DeYoung hits a little dribbler out to second base, grounds into another double play by Paul DeYoung at the plate as his plate struggles continue. Then you go on the Memphis Redbirds Twitter page and, oh, Jesus, Nolan Gorman just hit 2 bombs again.
Exactly.
And fans, they'll let the organization know. To me, it's the owners almost have to do it because the fan support is so incredibly going in the direction of they want to see their young guns. They want to see their investments. They want to see their draft picks. And they want to see their highly touted prospects. And the access that we have into minor leagues, the ability that we have to watch minor league baseball, we're throwing minor league baseball games on MLB TV right now. They're featuring one a week, and I think that's great.
That's tremendous.
But it accelerates the timetables for some of these major prospects because they're getting that national exposure, and the fan bases are becoming more accustomed to what they're doing. And they're being vocal about it. Like I said, St. Louis was a great example. Kansas City over the last couple of years with Bobby Witt was a great example. I just lived down the street from Omaha, where he was playing AAA baseball, and we're selling out a AAA ballpark.
Yeah.
To watch one player, and
I remember being in Binghamton when Reyes and they had David Wright had just left Binghamton, and Reyes was there, and they had a couple of pitchers that didn't really pan out, but they were highly touted prospects. That fucking ballpark was jumping because everybody wanted to come and watch Jose Reyes play. And that's the sort of hype that you get. And the difference between me in 2004 being at the BMET Stadium, now they're the Rumble Ponies or something stupid, but me being at the BMET Stadium in 04 and fans at Omaha Stadium now in 2020, 2021, 2022, excuse me, social media, right? I go watch Bobby Witt Jr. go 3 for 4 with a dinger, a triple, and a single, watch him make a couple of plays in the field, and I'm blowing up Twitter with it. I'm blowing up Instagram with it. And I'm tagging the Kansas City Royals. I'm tagging the owner because the owner's on social media. I'm tagging the GM. I'm tagging anybody that'll fucking listen because I want to see that guy play in Kansas City next year, not in Omaha. So you're absolutely right. The fans have much more say now, and they're not afraid to voice it. Quick aside before I move into before we move into our next stage here. Braves, they are starting to play a little better baseball. They're 5-5 in their last 10. The Mets are starting to come back a little bit too. I think the Scherzer injury really hurts the Mets.
Yep.
And you mentioned Waino pitching forever and Johnny Cueto being on the White Sox. I don't know if you saw the video, but and now his name is eluding me. Damn it. Old pitcher for the Mets, and now it's eluding. He's like 41 throwing bullpen sessions saying, I'm ready to pitch for the Mets.
You're not talking about Bartolo Colon.
I am talking about Bartolo Colon.
The big man.
I could not come up with his name. I kept thinking Carlos. I don't know why I was thinking Carlos. Bartolo Colon is throwing bullpen. And I'm not going to lie. He still got some fucking pop on that two-seamer, man. I don't know what it is about him. He can still – and he looks like he's in better shape than he was when he last retired. I don't know if he's hitting the gym. He's on, is he cycling on and off? I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but he looks like he's in better shape than he was when he left the game, and he's still got a little bit of pop, and he's dotting up the corner in that bullpen session. So, hey, if I'm the Mets, maybe I'm giving him a call. If I'm the Braves, maybe I'm giving him a call because the Braves, they're a little thin in the rotation right now. I know they've got some reinforcements coming. I think that lineup is starting to kind of come together a little bit. I do think if I'm a Braves fan, I'm encouraged by our past. We've talked about that several times, but I'm also encouraged by the fact that the Mets have cooled and they're starting to come back to the pack. If I'm a Braves fan, I'm hoping that Scherzer's going to miss closer to that 6 weeks as opposed to that 3 weeks, and we can make up some ground on the Mets if we start playing better baseball.
your time to gain ground right now for the Braves is now. And for Bartolo Colon's sake, the National League has added the designated hitter position. Of course, one of the most infamous home runs of all time.
Yep.
And maybe the slowest home run trot. I don't even know if he's crossed home yet.
He's still around in the bases.
Was when Bartolo Colon went deep, one of my favorite scenes in the history of baseball.
He took a leisurely stroll.
Soak it all in, Bartolo. Soak it all in. No, that's good stuff to see, throwing bullpen sessions and staying fit. And that was the biggest thing I was going to ask was how's his fitness, because when he left the league, it was rough.
Yeah, he was a donut shy of 350. He does look like he's in better shape. He looks like he's taking care of himself a little better than he was the last few years in the league. But, that NL East race, I think, could start to heat up because the Mets are starting to come back and we're getting closer to the time when, Acuna should be getting back into baseball shape, and the Braves should have some reinforcements coming back in the rotation. So we could see that NL East race heat up. The Mets, we talked about the possibility of them running away and disappearing. The Scherzer injury obviously changes that, but even in addition to that Scherzer injury, they've not gotten the same sort of production out of guys like Cookie Carrasco and those guys that were those secondary players that were really contributing to that early hot start that they had, and we've seen that play out over they're 6-4 in their last 10. Right. So if I'm a Braves fan, I'm a little bit encouraged that we're still within reach. It's 7.5 games, but it's still only May, and we're about to turn the calendar to June, but that NL East race could start to heat up for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to preview a matchup of two teams that sit atop the standings in their division. Yankees in Tampa Bay, right? And they're in Tampa, right? They're down in kind of western Florida, not quite South Florida. Tampa doesn't claim South Florida, but they're in Florida, in the nursing home center of the world. Mm-hmm. And this is a series that right now we see the Yankees they're still hot in a lot of ways, but we see some really good pitching matchups, and that's what I want to highlight, the Saturday and Sunday matchups especially. On Saturday we've got Saturday is Cole versus Kluber, and that's a nice matchup there. Kluber's off to a little bit slow start in terms of win-loss, but we still know who Corey Kluber is. I love giving Garrett Cole a hard time. Great stuff, great pitcher, obviously, but hopefully that game starts on time for him and doesn't get delayed, because I know how much of a problem that is for him. And then on Sunday we get Severino versus McClanahan. Taillon starts the series for the Yankees, but I wanted to highlight these two weekend matchups because Severino versus McClanahan, we're looking at Severino, who's 3-0, McClanahan, who's 4-2, a couple of pitchers that have been getting some pretty good run support, but also have been doing their part to contribute here. So I think Saturday and Sunday, especially with this Yankees-Rays series, I think we've got really good pitching matchups, and we're going to see which one of these lineups can assert themselves, because you mentioned Judge, who's hot as fish grease right now. Can he get off against McClanahan? Can he get off against Kluber and make a difference in this series? Those two pitching matchups I think are going to be really, really interesting atop this division, that it's starting to feel like the Jays are losing a little bit of touch with the top two. They've been kind of floundering a little bit. I know that the Yankees, after their several winning streaks this season, have cooled off just a little bit, but the Rays sit 4 games back of the Yankees, and then Tampa or Toronto's about 2.5 games behind Tampa right now. So if I'm Toronto, I watch the series closely because I don't want either of these teams to get too far away from me. But if I'm Tampa or if I'm New York, this is an opportunity to establish myself in this race at about the third pole, right? You mentioned we're about a third of the way through the season. This is a good opportunity to take some momentum into June and July. We start to get close to the dog days of summer here, close to the All-Star break, and start to really see how things are shaking out. Good series here, good pitching matchups to watch over the weekend series.
Yeah, you mentioned Toronto a little bit, and it seems weird to say. It's like Toronto is falling away from the rest of the pack, yet they're still 3 games above 500.
Right.
That's how good the rest of the pack is, and then that's how good the Rays and the Yankees have been so far here. We talked about the Rays before, that they just seem to press the right buttons, and from an organizational standpoint, they're a team that irregardless of what they've got on their roster, they're a team you just don't count out. And again, the Yankees, for 2 weekends in a row, we highlighted the Yankees and the White Sox in their weekend series. 2 weekends in a row here, the Yankees have got some tough tasks in there, and they're starting to get into the meat of their schedule a little bit. And the Rays are certainly going to provide a tough test. And that pitching matchup looks very intriguing. Like we mentioned, with the White Sox series, when you had Kopech take the hill, the Yankees struggled a little bit. Aaron Judge was still able to find his swing, but Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo, I think they went over against Kopech, as a lot of the Yankees did in that matchup. So, it'll be very intriguing, and you just want to see, man, can the Rays announce their presence with authority? Can they get back into this here before the first week of June? You get to the Memorial Day weekend, and all of a sudden, if the Rays pick up 2 of 3, that's a 1.5 game race, and they're right in the thick of it with the best team in baseball, statistically speaking. So it'll be very, very intriguing to see if the Rays can make up some ground here, and a good opportunity to do that here this weekend, and really get to a fun race here to start off June.
Yeah, for sure. Could swing the standings. Also could create some separation, right? If the Yankees are able to take 2 of 3, they could pad their cushion. And of course, depending on what the Jays are able to do as they move into the weekend here, that race could get interesting. All right. So before we move into salute to service and finish up with State of the Union, we're going to throw back to last week. So you have delivered on your end of our comparison here.
There it is.
So there's the stash.
That's a good one. Hold on. Let me
yeah, let's get it out here.
Put the cap around.
Yeah.
We'll gaze off into the sunlight.
Yeah, I think we're competing here.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little bit of flow in the back can be distracting, right? Like everybody thinks, God, that's so impressive, because he's got that. Yeah, he's got that lettuce. But look, if we're just looking at the stash,
I don't have the flow to go along with it. I don't have the sun glare on the stash,
the lighting,
to really help assist.
We got to do this show outdoors on a baseball diamond.
It is not a sunlight-aided stash, that is for sure. I've often referred to it. To me, it looks a lot like the 1970s and something you'd see out of Chips. If I wore really short shorts and got on a police motorbike, I think we'd give Ponch and Chip a run for their money. I don't even know if it was Ponch and Chip. I can't remember the show, but it's
you mentioned Tom Selleck. I think that's a pretty good comparison there. I think we're looking at, this is more of the modern hipster mustache, right? And he pulls it off very well. There's no disputing that, especially with the impressive locks flowing from underneath the cap. But just on pure stash, I mean, it's not a runaway. We're competing here.
He pulls it off better. He has more confidence with the stash, and it takes confidence to pull off that stash.
Oh yeah.
I don't quite have the pronounced feng shui with it, the confidence level. I don't mind rocking it. I don't mind rocking it at all. And I think maybe it looks a little better in a hockey jersey right now. It's our playoff stash we got
the ambiance of the hockey jersey adds to it.
Yeah. And, I do think it looks better with a backwards cap, so I'm going to flip that back here really quick.
There you go.
But all in all, it's the flow in the back that does it for me. If we're going to go grading, who wears the stash better? Who wears it better? Michaelis wears it better because he's got the flow and he's got the sunlight. By the way, he's also a millionaire Major League Baseball player. Yeah. That helps too. I'm some schmuck who can't even tell if the Boston Red Sox are going to crumble or win the division. I don't know. They won 6 in a row. So.
Yeah. We bagged pretty hard on Trevor Story last week too, and he's been about the hottest hitter in baseball over the last week.
Just goes and wins Player of the Week. What the fuck do we know? Who knows?
The hell do we know? He hits 3 bombs, I think, one day after we shat all over him. It's like he watches the show or something and just got pissed. It was like, all right, I guess I'll fucking start playing.
Wouldn't
now.
that be something, in a post-game comment?
Right.
Like, what inspired this? Well, I was listening to the RosinBggers pod, and they basically lit a fire under my ass and told me to get better or quit, so we got better.
They said I got paid and got fat and happy, so I guess I better start playing baseball again.
Would love that. If any Major League Baseball players are listening, give us a shout-out next time you're in a post-game press conference.
All right. Let's transition here to our salute to service real quick. All right, tonight's episode goes out to Master Sergeant Luis De Leon Figueroa. He died August 21st, 2019, serving during Operation Freedom Sentinel. Master Sergeant De Leon Figueroa was 31 of Chicopee, Massachusetts. He died during combat operations in Faryab Province, Afghanistan. He was awarded during his time in service with the Bronze Star Medal, the Army Commendation Medal with Valor Device, the Afghanistan Campaign Medal with 2 campaign stars, the Iraq Campaign Medal with 1 campaign star, and the NATO Medal. Pretty bad dude here. Master Sergeant Luis De Leon Figueroa, thank you for your service. We have the watch. All right. Let's transition to our State of the Union here. I'll tell you, man, every week when I'm running like the soundboard, the layover board, or the overlay board, I appreciate more how organized Stove seems. I don't know if he's over there panicking trying to find shit like I am, but he seems super fucking organized and he's ready to roll. I'm over here shooting from the fucking hip, like, where's it at? Where's it at?
Just press the button. Hopefully it works.
Yep. All right. So this week, for your State of the Union, you want to talk about the American League. The floor is yours, sir.
Well,
or the podium, I should say, is yours.
Yeah, we did the National League West. We did the National League East last week on the show. I felt like it was a great opportunity to highlight the American League and take a look at all 3 different divisions, kind of taking a look at where we're at here in terms of the American League as we move into Memorial Day weekend and the very first week of June. Yankees clear-cut favorite at this point of the season. I don't think there's any disputing that. They were the first to 30. They played the best baseball. Despite being swept in that Sunday doubleheader by the White Sox, the Yankees still finished the week 4-3. They preserve their standings as the best team in baseball. Aaron Judge, we've enough on him. He's just red, white hot right now. MLB leading 15th home run of the season in Game 1 of that twin bill. Of course, the trio with Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, 36 long balls in a quite frankly season that we haven't seen a whole lot of long balls. These guys are red hot. 36 home runs here in 2022. That's just 3 players that have got 36, and one of those players has 15 of those 36. So you get Stanton and Rizzo going a little bit. Watch out. This is going to be a very dicey team to contend with. Meanwhile, the starting rotation, by the way, we've talked enough about the Yankees offense. Their starting rotation leads the American League with a 2.90 ERA. Pretty solid stuff from the Pinstripes. In the AL West, the Astros top the standings. Houston right now on paper, second best team in the American League. They stumbled a bit out of the gate this past week. They dropped 2-3 to the before mentioned Red Sox, who are playing a lot better baseball as of late. Red Sox were at Fenway against Houston, where they were able to take 2 of 3. Red Sox have put up 6 in a row. Starting pitching for Houston has been the story. And Justin Verlander, who is drinking from the fountain of youth, just
right. Is that guy ever going to fucking get old? Like, what else does the guy need? He's got Kate Upton. He's got a Cy Young. He's got a World Series. I think 2 World Series. And he's like 38 and he's still pitching like he's fucking 29.
Does he not
Some
look
guys
to
just
be,
have it all.
Does he not look to be in prime Justin Verlander form?
Seriously, like he just looks like he's fucking 29 again. I don't know what happened.
His ERA is under 0.125. It's at 0.122. ERA leading rotation 2.96, second best in Major League Baseball, right behind the Astros, though. Anaheim Angels, who are still playing pretty good baseball, they were my pick to win the AL West, and this looks like it's going to be a pretty fun race. Mm-hmm. I think in terms of divisional races, as we move forward, this is going to be one of 3 two-horse races in the American League. And notice, here we are at the end of May, and I'm starting to separate some of the pretenders from the contenders, and I'm starting to put two-horse races together.
It's that time of year.
I think in the AL West, we've got a two-horse race between the Angels and the Astros. Should be fun to watch.
Rangers don't have a chance?
No. They may finish just above Oakland. Not sure yet. Could be close. Nice pick.
I'll never live that one down.
It was rough. In the Central, it'll be a two-horse race. It'll be a two-horse race between the Chicago White Sox and the Minnesota Twins. We talked a little bit about the White Sox in the very first segment. Minnesota right now leads the division, tied for the second longest active winning streak in the majors at a time in which the White Sox appear to be figuring a few things out in the Central. So I'm really looking forward to that race being close. Speaking of 6-game winners, the Red Sox threw them into the dumpster on last week's pod. What the fuck do we know? They rattle off 6 straight. They closed the gap on Toronto for the American League East's third best team. But I'm going to toss out Toronto, and I'm going to toss out Boston here for purposes of the State of the Union, because I think your previously mentioned preview with the Rays and the Yankees is going to be the two-horse race that we're starting to see. So I think we've seen some of the emergers and some of the contenders, as apart from some of the pretenders, come out here. And I think in the AL East, I think it'll be a two-horse race between the Yankees and the Rays in terms of who wins that American League East pennant. Now, I'm not saying that some of these teams that we're throwing under the bus aren't going to maybe nab a wild card spot or get into to the race late, but I don't think they should have a shot at the pennant. I think the real deal here for these pennant races, we've got the Yankees and the Rays, we've got the White Sox and the Twins, and we've got the Astros and the Angels. And all told, I think this is going to be very competitive races that are going to go late into the baseball season. I don't see, and here's maybe my most exciting part about the State of the Union for the American League, is I don't see a runaway race where we get to August and we have a team that has completely took their foot off the accelerator and is coasting. I think we're going to see teams that are going to be playing playoff baseball, meaningful baseball, all the way through September and into the early part of the playoff races. These divisional races should be great. And what the American League has done in terms of closing the gap with parity has been absolutely phenomenal, because you remember it was the Guardians, previously known as the Cleveland Indians. They were the runaway favorite in the AL Central for so long, where they couldn't even be touched in terms of a divisional race. The Angels have been banged up by injuries. They finally get Mike Trout back, and he's playing along with Shohei Ohtani, and that's all you need in Anaheim. Oh, by the by, they're getting some great pitching from some of their younger studs that has really thrown Anaheim into the race. So all of a sudden you insert Anaheim into a race with Houston, who has previously ran away with the division. The American League East has always been fun and has always been competitive. You still have that in ingredients when you mix in Toronto and Boston, who will be slugging out, playing the role of spoilers. But I think, like I said, Tampa and New York, probably my two favorites here early on. And all of this, of course, pending injuries, but the American League Central's race and the American League West race from where we were at just 1 year ago has been phenomenal in terms of parity. So the state of the American League right now, the State of the Union, is you guys have some pretty fun baseball to be paying attention to all summer long. Yeah,
for sure. And you mentioned the Angels. I just want to kind of hit an aside there. You mentioned the pitching, that they're getting a lot of contributions. They're getting some contributions from some young guys on the offensive side that I don't think we would have expected entering the season. And I want to highlight one guy in particular. Taylor Ward is just fucking lighting shit up. And if I told you at the beginning of the season that an outfield prospect for the Angels was killing it at the third pole, you wouldn't have picked Taylor Ward. You probably would have picked Joe Adell.
Yeah.
And Joe Adell has been struggling, and they've been trying for 2, almost 3 full years to figure out whether Joe Adell is going to be a Major League Baseball player. And I think that the worry has been for the Angels that if he's not, who completes that outfield for the Angels? Because you've got no questions with Trout. You've got Ohtani on his off days that he's not pitching. Who's that third outfielder that completes that outfield for them? And they wanted it for the longest time to be Joe Adell, but it's not. But they're not getting any sort of fall off between what they thought Joe Adell could be and what Taylor Ward is right now. He's like, he hit a bomb yesterday that changed that game, or maybe I think it was 2 days ago that changed that game for them. He's batting 370 on the season. He's 30 for 108. So it's not like he's had 50 at bats. He's had 108 at bats, batting 370, 9 bombs, and over 20 ribbies. So you're talking about a team that you're absolutely right when you're talking about 2-horse races. I think that AL East, we know what the Rays are, we know what the Yankees are. The AL Central, we know what the Twins are, we know what the White Sox are. In the AL West, we didn't quite, and you picked it, you called it, but like I think on the whole, right, writ large across the baseball community, we weren't really sure what the Angels were going to be. And we knew what the Astros were going to be because they've got guys that are seasoned there and they've been successful. That AL West is, I think, going to be very interesting because what they've got up and down that lineup and up and down that rotation makes them sustainable over the long haul.
You know,
and I'm fully aware that I just jinxed them and they're going to lose their next 30 games.
Exactly.
That's what I do.
The Angels were the dark horse, and that's the Gary curse coming into play. The Angels were the dark horse, I think, coming in the Major League Baseball season. And it wasn't just one or two pundits that had them as the dark horse. They were if they can put it all together, this could be a dangerous baseball team. Then you still have the pundits that are saying, how long can they sustain it? How long can this keep going? At this rate, again, Gary curse aside, at this rate, they're playing great baseball. They remind me a little bit of a Tampa Bay. You know, not your household names that are throwing in big production. You add that with the Ohtani and Trout factor, and they're just a dangerous team. And they're certainly one that I don't want to play in a 3-game series right now. That's one that could easily go 2 or 3 for Anaheim. If you're essentially anybody else in Major League Baseball, it could even be a 3-game sweep if you're a Rangers or you're an A's. Anaheim playing good baseball. They're going to be competitive with Houston. Houston appears to have all their ducks in a row. They haven't skipped a beat. Their offense is just deadly. And then you throw in the Justin Verlander factor, who I really expected this to be his swan song. I kind of thought I was under the impression that Justin Verlander was going to have a ballooning ERA.
I expected him to be in the bullpen this year.
Sure.
That's where I was with JV.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, he's unreal, man.
And as much as I hate Houston, as much as I hate them, I love Justin Verlander, and I love his story, and you can't help but cheer for him when he's on the bump.
Absolutely.
So, State of the Union in the American League, this is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and we're going to have some races down the stretch that I think are just going to be really ones that we want to key in on late. So, lots of good baseball still to be played in the American League. That's my State of the Union.
As Mr. Terrell Owens would say, get your popcorn ready.
Get your popcorn ready. Like it.
All right, so I said I wanted to get creative, and I think I initiated a little bit of the divisional State of the Union last week, but this week I went kind of off the radar a little bit. My State of the Union right now is for the fans of baseball. All right. We went through a tumultuous offseason where there were points of this offseason negotiation where they wouldn't even get to where they sat down at the table, let alone negotiate at the table. They were so far apart that they would schedule a meeting, talk for 5 minutes and leave. And there were times when I legitimately thought we were going to lose upwards of half the season, And a worst case was going to be that we would lose the whole season. I didn't throw a lot of stock into losing the whole season because I don't think the owners want to lose that revenue. I don't think the baseball players want to lose that salary. But I legitimately thought we were going to get an 81 game season starting in July and played through July, August, September. So to start the season on time, well, I shouldn't say on time. We started a little late. We didn't have spring training, but we're getting 162 games, right? So we're getting the full season. That's a win to start. And then we get into the season and we realize why we love this fucking game. We've had a no-hitter. We've had a combined no-hitter from the worst team in baseball. A game in which they lost.
Incredible.
We have Aaron Judge, who's just white hot, hit these 15 bombs a third of the way into the season. Guy that could get to 50, right? We haven't seen a lot of 50 home run seasons in a while because of analytics and the way things are, all or nothing, etc. And just kind of the way the balls are, it's in those sorts of things. So to see a guy that's potentially going to get there, right? Salvi Perez last year had 48, and I think he led the American League in home runs. And then we've got these. You're talking about the AL races, right? And then we've got the NL West where we've got 3 teams that are absolutely just crushing it right now. We've got the big markets that are back in prominence, right? The Mets have not been there in a long time. They're back in prominence. So we're starting to get exactly what Major League Baseball needs because we've got Chicago with the White Sox there in it. The Cubbies are down, but the White Sox are up, right? So we've got that market. We've got New York. We've got LA. We've got Tampa doing what they're doing. We've got these small market teams that are still, producing at that level. And of course, we've got owners that are telling their fans to fuck off. It's been a roller coaster season, but it's been fun. And we talked a bit about the young guns, the prospects, right? Bobby Witt, Julio. We've got Adley up, and we've got some young guys that are exciting to watch. So I think looking back on what it could have been, I like where the state of the union is right now. And I think we're heading in a good direction with baseball with some of these rules that are coming into play. We've talked about the extra innings stuff. I like that they fixed it for the postseason with the ghosty on second. But I like where we're going with the game. I like that baseball recognizes that it's got to put a better product on the field, and they're focused on making that product better, despite all the bullshit from the offseason, from the owners fighting with the players, billionaires fighting with millionaires, right? The easiest way to put it. I like where the game is right now, and I'm confident that the outlook is good. So for the State of the Union as a fan, I think we're in a good place right now.
Well put. The young guns certainly have attributed to that. It provides excitement for those fan bases right now that are struggling to find wins, like your Seattles, like your Kansas Cities. You hope for a guy like O'Neal Cruz to come up in Pittsburgh and provide a little more excitement alongside Key Brian Hayes. That Pittsburgh lineup could be just deadly if they just make a call. Just make a call to their AAA affiliate and get somebody up that's going to provide a little bit of spark to PNC Park. One of the greatest venues, by the way, in all of baseball is PNC. Absolutely gorgeous. But I look back at where we were and the amount of dread that I had heading into April
especially.
And it looked bleak, to put it mildly. And I thought if we were going to get any product, it was going to be shortened season. And I remember thinking, my God, what are we going to do to an already struggling fan base on a global scale of the game? It's a struggling fan base to keep fans excited and engaged in baseball. And now you're taking the game away from them. You're moving things over to streaming platforms. And I had questions, and the streaming platforms so far I've been streaming platform neutral in terms of the TV revenue that they're striking up. In terms of what they're doing, I'm still able to get the game, so no complaints. But I thought, if we were to miss games, that would be a huge blow that would have taken not one season, not 2 seasons, multiple seasons to recover from. I think getting 162 was key, was huge for the sport. And again, all of the deals that took place, I remember staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning when they were meeting over and walking deals across back and forth, and the burning the midnight oil trying to strike up a deal. The amount of excitement that was generated just for me to get baseball back when they said those 2 magic words, "We're back," and everything that's come along since. You mentioned the races, and you got the blue bloods in there. The Cardinals are going to be fighting for the NL Central crown along with the Milwaukee Brewers. You got some of the mainstays. The Braves are going to put up a fight and try to defend their World Series championship against arguably one of the big markets in the NL East. So the state of the game is strong, and especially from the fan standpoint. Here's the thing that I'm picking up most with the fans, and why I think that the state of the game is strong, and what the players really understand that is the interactions that they have within the players. How many more videos are we seeing where you've got Aaron Judge out in the outfield playing catch with a fan, and you got a guy hopping over the fence to give a foul ball to a fan with a guy's jersey? The fans are engaging with their players. Of course, the scene from Toronto a couple weeks ago with the fan catching that and giving it to a young Aaron Judge fan, and then getting recognized by the Yankees and the Blue Jays organization. The players are recognizing how important that fan base is, and that interaction has been equal. And so, yeah, you look at the State of the Union, and you said it perfectly. It's in a great place right now. And I think here's the best part about it. It's only going to get better as we move into the dog days of summer, because things are really going to start to heat up.
Yeah. I think the races are going to make a difference, right, for this immediate season. I really hope, we talked about it last week to close, right? Baseball understanding where it came from and starting to highlight that sort of nostalgia, right? They've got the game in Williamsport, and then they've got the Field of Dreams game, and now they're talking about Hinchcliffe Stadium, right? Let's continue to build on that. Understand where you came from, understand the roots of the game, and teach that sort of thing to these younger fans, because that's what's going to create. Baseball is very much a nostalgia-laden game. It's not like football where everything is just high action all the time, or hockey where like the playoffs are just different, or even basketball where it's just high tempo, up and down the court. Baseball is very much that feel, right? I sit in a ballpark. I've got a program in my hand. I've got a scorecard that I'm keeping balls and strikes and all that, right? That's what the game of baseball is. So let's continue to mix that with making the game more exciting. And by making it more exciting, we've talked about the young guns being called up by teams. Stop being tight asses, right? If you're Baltimore, you're Oakland, you're Cincy, get those young guys up and let them play. Cincy had so many fucking prospects that I thought Cincy was going to have a chance to compete in the NL Central this year until they sold the farm.
I thought they were going to have a chance to compete in the National League.
Potentially, right? Like that would have been best case scenario for them for sure. And they would have had the talent to say something about the NL pennant. It's frustrating to see shit like that, because that takes away from a fan base that deserves better. You mentioned the blue blood, right? Cincy's one of, if not the oldest franchise still, continuously playing in Major League Baseball. They've had opening day forever, and that finally went away. But those are the things we need to build on, not take away from. So I like where we're headed. Potentially, I think baseball is finally self-aware that they're not the most popular show in town. I think for a long time, MLB was in denial that the NFL was taking over. And I think now MLB sees that, we've got to do something about it. And I think they are taking steps. I don't love Manfred, but I like the overall collective effort of both the players and the league. You mentioned all the interaction with fans. That's like going to ballparks, not to get too far off on a tangent, but like minor league baseball. When you go to the stadium, all of the interaction you get from the players, the interaction from the team They do giveaways, they do t-shirt launches, they do all the different stuff that go on. And then you can walk down to the field and the players are so eager to interact. We went to a minor league game in Pawtucket. We went and watched a Paw Sox game with my daughters. Not even sports fans, like, at all. Like, daddy watches sports on Sundays. They can't be bothered to even sit down with me. We go to a baseball game, and they're interacting with the players, getting autographs. They're getting baseballs. They loved it. That's the sort of thing they need from baseball to build this fan base back up to be a thriving fan base. All right, let's finish up with, we're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to go to something that's a little negative after some positivity here with State of the Union. We're going to frame it in fair or foul. All right. I'm going to pass your way first. I'm curious your thoughts on this because I didn't get a lot from you in the group chat this week on this situation. So I'm really, really curious, genuinely curious to hear your thoughts. And I know we're going to toe a line here that, you know, isn't really our place, right? But we are going to toe that line because it's part of the conversation. So, fair or foul, MLB was justified in suspending Josh Donaldson for his Jackie comment.
Going back to the series review with the White Sox and the Yankees, and I'll be fairly brief with my comments on this because I know that you're anxious to just sound off. Here's where I'm standing right now on the fair or foul, and this is in the opinion of one pundit who does not have any sort of affiliation with Major League Baseball, with the game, with its growth. This is just from an outsider perspective. It was a one-game suspension, so it wasn't like they slapped his hand real hard on this. It was a minor hand slap. It's still foul, and it's foul because in my heart of hearts, I honestly think it was Josh Donaldson trying to make an effort to respect a guy by saying he plays like Jackie Robinson. Now, I understand from that standpoint how Tim Anderson takes it wrong. I get it. But it's nothing more than opening up your foot or opening up your mouth and inserting your foot. And I don't think there was harm. I don't think there was malicious intent. I don't think there was racist undertones in this comment. I think he was genuinely trying to show affection to a guy that's a really damn good baseball player, like Jackie Robinson was. I think it got twisted and it got blown way out of proportion. And again, I'm very sensitive with these issues. I deal with a lot of them on a daily basis in my regular profession, so I get it. That we need to be more sensitive and we need to be more self-aware when we're having these discussions about race relations. But I really don't think it was anything other than a guy just making a stupid comment. Again, did he have to make it? No. I think he was trying to pay affection to the way Tim Anderson plays baseball. I think Tim Anderson blew it out of proportion. And then I think that escalated and amplified tensions in that series and really didn't need to be discussed. What frustrated me on especially the Sunday night game on ESPN is how they just hammered the shit out of it. And guys, let it go. It was an open mouth, insert foot kind of deal. And I think we could have easily just let bygones be bygones and played damn baseball and enjoyed the game. But instead you bring in a whole nother conversation about race relations in professional sports that, to me, frankly, didn't need to happen. It didn't need to be there. It could have easily got swept under the rug and pushed aside, and we could have played. So, to me, it's foul. The suspension was foul. The uproar that's happened since the comment is irrelevant because I just don't think that it wasn't intended for me ever to be malicious. So this is foul for me. I'm not as upset, and I'm not as passionate about it. Like I said, a 1-game suspension for me. Okay, we'll treat that like your off day. And it's no big deal. So the 1-game suspension here and there, but to hand out a punishment for a comment that I think was taken the wrong way. And I think we're very, as a society, quick on the trigger and quick to immediately take something out of context and twist it as a racist comment if it comes from the opposite race. And that's what I think we saw.
Yeah, and that last, not quite the very last, but the next to last point you made there is any punishment to me is where I stand on this, right? And I'm gonna let it out of the bag now. I think this is foul. I think this is very, very foul from MLB. This is showing too much that you are dealing out punishment based on interpretation, based on optics. And that's not good for the game. The optics of this, if he'd have come out and dropped a racial slur on him, 100%, and you go harder, right? Yep. There's no 1 game. This is several series for that ass. But Tim Anderson called himself Jackie Robinson. In 2019, he asked Josh Donaldson not to call him Jackie anymore. Fine. But at its most malicious, what I believe this could have been, if Josh Donaldson was being as malicious as I think he was going to be in a hypothetical scenario, this is a guy who knows that calling you Jackie will get under your skin. Not a guy that's calling you Jackie because of the color of your skin. It's such a passing comment. And I'm going to cite Stephen A. Smith, who I don't often get to cite because I don't see eye to eye on things with him very often. He's very much a shock jock and has a lot of blasphemous takes that just get clicks, that just get eyes on the screen. But he came out and said it perfectly. And I try to have this conversation as I'm as white bread as a fucking male can be, right? So I am the farthest from being able to sympathize with any of the actual racism that goes on in this country. I'm going to say that to start. But what Stephen A. said resonates because I try to have this conversation of if everything is race-based, nothing is race-based. And I equate that to the intelligence community that I work in. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Because you can't prioritize things if you're just, oh yeah, everything's super important. If everything is race-based, then nothing is. Because we're just talking about it all in the same context, and nothing can ever be solved in that manner. And you put it perfectly. They jumped to a conclusion that wasn't there. And Tony La Russa, I am very, very, very disappointed in him coming out and being so emphatic about it being racial, because he should know as well as anybody that context matters in the heat of the game, in exchanges in the game. Like things get said and construed, and there are unwritten things that go on in the game. Like it just to me was jumping so far to a conclusion. But to stick to the topic, what the fuck is MLB doing in this scenario? Because Tim Anderson even came out afterward and said, yeah, he used to call me Jackie. Okay. Then what are you suspending Josh Donaldson for? Right? Like, not to say you should be interpreting what someone gets offended by, but you guys used to joke about shit. You just admitted it. You asked him to stop calling you in 2019. And that's why I say at its most malicious to me, Josh Donaldson might have been saying something that he knows gets under the skin of a good player on the other team. And you're always looking for an advantage, right? But if he's simply just pointing out the fact that Tim Anderson's a great fucking baseball player, again, he called himself Jackie Robinson.
Right.
It's not racially based. It's just not. MLB's fouled for this. Any punishment in this scenario, to me, sets a bad precedent because now you're opening the door for any little slight to be publicized and result in a suspension. Because if it happened here, why wouldn't it happen there? Right? And it doesn't matter what gets said. If I just say, oh, I think it's racially based, or I think it's gender based, or I think it's culturally based, any of that, religion based, any of that stuff, why this and not that? So now you're opening Pandora's box. And I don't think MLB, one, was justified, and two, even needed to insert themselves into this. Let the players hash this out. They've made their statements, and we move on. He didn't use a racial slur. And I'll re-emphasize that. If he used a racial slur, let's fucking drop the hammer on the guy, because there's no room in the game for that.
100%.
Absolutely. I think baseball was very, very off the mark with suspending Donaldson. And one game is one game. It's an off day. Totally understand. But my biggest stance on this is that any punishment opens the door to some really potentially big issues down the road.
I didn't even think, race relations is just one issue as a society that we're dealing with. There's a whole lot of them going on right now. And anyone that takes any comment that is made in the heat of battle between two competitors and can twist that and go to Major League Baseball and cry foul here and get some guy suspended for a game. And what if that's late in the season? I mean, yeah, you're right.
In the playoffs,
they've opened up a big box here, and they're gonna have to take a hard, I think, a harder look at it. Get all the facts first before you go hand out your punishment. Again, foul.
100%. And just as an example, how often, like, I do it all the time, and I'm not a religious person, but like, I make a mistake and I say, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Swing and a miss at the plate, pop up a foul ball, you say, God damn it. And somebody who is religious goes and says, I take offense to that. How's that different than this? Right? That's what I worry about. That's what I worry about with this precedent that we're setting with this. All right. Let's get to closing statements. Let's bring the energy up a little bit here. What do you got for us on the way out the door, Ty?
Well, not to go heavy on top of heavy, but closing statements as we move into the Memorial Day weekend for baseball, and we move into Memorial Day weekend as a society. I think it's a good time to remember that there is great things about the American pastime. And one of those things, and one of my favorite memories to do on Memorial Day weekend, is to get a burger and get a beer and watch a baseball game with the family. And I think it's important to remember as we head into the Memorial Day weekend why we get that opportunity to do that. And that is to all those brave men and women who have laid down their life, paid the ultimate sacrifice to give us the freedoms, to be able to watch the game we love, to be able to enjoy the game we love in the greatest country on God's green earth, and the services that those men and women pay forward. If you get the opportunity, please attend a Memorial Day service on Monday to show that respect to those who have laid down their lives to give us the freedom to not only enjoy the game of baseball, but to live our lives here in the land of the free.
Listen, I have nothing to add on top of that. That was tremendous. Thank you. That brings us to the conclusion of the episode. On that note, we are out.